Sometime within the next 2 years, Korea's international investment position for the very first time may turn positive. Well, that is according to a Bank of Korea report this week. The central bank says that Korea's net international investment position at the end of March this year was minus $4.3 billion US dollars. But Asia's fourth largest economy is likely to see that shift to the black as its debt size is trending lower on the ongoing streak of current account surplus. Now, net international investment position is, of course, the difference between a country's external financial asset and liabilities. So, will Korea be a debtor no more in the next 2 years? Joining me live on the line is our regular contributor, Dr. Byoung-joo. Now, Dr. Kim, so this net international investment position is basically the equivalent to net total in household bookkeeping, if you will. And if you owe more than what you have, your net total is in the negative, meaning, you're in debt. But if you have money left over after you have paid for what you owe, say, credit card companies, landlord, etc., and your net is in the positive, your household finances are okay and you aren't in debt. Am I correct?
Right. You're totally correct, and I think that's a great analogy and a wonderful explanation. Actually, Korea has been compiling this data for international investment position since 1994. And what has been happening is, for instance, when the economy was in trouble, such as towards the later part of 2007, there was the point where we were approaching 2008 global financial crisis. Korea had a large, overseas liability, 214 billion US dollars at that time, owing, overseas countries and other economies and so on. But since then, that liability has been narrowing big time. But the overall, basically, what's been happening is as the Korean economy has been growing, and also it has become, as it has been globalizing fast, overall, both liability and, asset overseas, they have been growing big time. For instance, let's say towards the 1994-96, when first Korea began compiling this data, the size of debt and liability were below 200 billion overseas each. But now each of them, both liability and asset overseas, are getting close to 1 trillion US dollars. So indeed, this shows the growth of the Korean economy itself, and also growth of the globalization of this economy as well.
Well, but the question is, for many years, Korea has been recording current account surpluses, and we have had one of the world's largest foreign exchange reserve holdings. But why is it just now that we're talking about Korea becoming a net creditor country?
That is because in the past, there have been a large number of foreign investors who have been holding Korean stocks and bonds in Korean won terms. And, not only the growth of their investment here, portfolio investment has been growing, but also the value of Korean won, the currency, has been, increasing, going up. So overall, there has been the trend of inflating or growth of foreign liabilities. So that's why even though we have had large size of foreign exchange reserve here in this country, we have not seen this tipping point until now. So that could be one explanation for that.
And soon we will turn into a net creditor country because of the continuously growing current account surplus and the fast increasing Korea's investment overseas, right?
Right, exactly. And especially the current account surplus growth has been remarkable. And from 2008, which was the low point of the latest global trouble, until up to the end of last year, Korea has been accumulating about 215 billion US dollars of current account surplus. And that has big time, as you mentioned, added to Korea's overall asset holding here as opposed to liabilities overseas. And also, what you mentioned, the Korea's investment overseas. We have talked a lot about how Samsung and Hyundai Motors, they're active investing overseas, and that are beginning to make a big impact here in this, this bookkeeping that we call the IIP, International Investment Position here. And now finally we are seeing their impact overall. So this dramatic growth of investment overseas definitely is making much difference. And at the same time, we have to admit, the foreigners' investment here, especially direct investment, has not been very active here. It has a lot of reasons why it's not the case and why Korea companies are shipping jobs overseas actively. But overall, to get to the bottom of this, overall, Korean businesses are very active investing overseas, while foreign investors, relatively in comparison to Korean businesses, are not as active in investing here in Korea.
So, once Korea becomes a net creditor economy, Korea will have to deal with the new landscape. Now, what needs to be done to, I suppose, further boost Korea as a net creditor and, I suppose, continue the winning streak?
The thing is, one point that I want to make very clear to you is, and to all of our viewers, actually, net creditor country itself is not a concept that's totally desirable here because, when you make lots of investment overseas, that means jobs being created overseas rather than here in this country. So even though the name sounds great, I think the best possible option for us is to remain, it's just my total view, but totally my personal view, but remain kind of like a net debtor country with lots of long-term foreign direct investment here. So that's my own view, and it needs to be discussed and disputed. So overall, that's the clarification for that. And also, for now, as Bank of Korea's report has emphasized, right, at this point, we have considerable amount of foreign investors investing in Korea's portfolio financial market, and their in and out of flow is rather fast and dramatic sometimes. So that's something that authorities will have to closely watch. But at the same time, once again, I think Korea need to focus on securing more of long-term investment into this country from overseas, and then at the same time watch and manage the overall outflow of investment from here to overseas.
So basically, this concept, net international investment position, although it is a very useful tool in I suppose, the bookkeeping of the one country's finances, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in the positive for it to be a healthy economy.
Exactly. That's my point.
All right, Dr. Kim Byoung-joo, thank you so much for today, and we will see you back in the studio tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.